Welcome back. In this episode, we're continuing our journey through the history of animals in space with a focus on some truly heroic figures, the Soviet space dogs. These brave pups weren't just man's best friend, they were humanity's first step toward exploring the stars. Talk about raising the woof. By the mid-1950s, the space race between the United States and the Soviet Union was heating up. Both nations were determined to dominate this new frontier, but the Soviets had a unique strategy. They put their trust in dogs. And not just any dogs. These were stray dogs, chosen for their toughness and ability to endure harsh conditions. Imagine explaining that to your local shelter. Yes, I'd like a dog, but only if it's astronaut material. The Soviet program believed that stray dogs, accustomed to the rough life on Moscow's streets, would be better equipped to handle the stress of space travel. These dogs were considered ideal candidates because they were already survivors. If they could thrive in Moscow winters, surely they could handle the challenges of space. The training these dogs underwent was intense. Imagine your dog at obedience school. Now add spinning centrifuges, simulated launches, and confinement in tiny capsules. It was the world's most extreme game of sit and stay. These pups endured loud noises, rapid acceleration, and long hours in isolation chambers. The scientists even monitored their behavior to see if they would panic. Spoiler, they probably did. And then came the star of the show, Laika. On November 3rd, 1957, Laika, a small mixed-breed dog weighing around 13 pounds, became the first living creature to orbit the Earth aboard Sputnik 2. This was a monumental achievement. Humans hadn't even gone to space yet, but here was Laika, gazing down at us from the heavens. She wasn't just any dog. She was history in the making, and let's be real, probably the only dog ever to have a better view than the first-class cabin. Laika's journey, however, was bittersweet. Her mission was a one-way trip. There were no plans to bring her back safely because the technology simply didn't exist yet. Her spacecraft was hastily constructed to meet an urgent deadline set by the Soviet leadership. Laika's role was groundbreaking, but it also highlighted the ethical dilemmas of pushing the boundaries of science. Despite the challenges, Laika survived the launch and entered orbit. According to reports, she initially handled the journey well, but conditions aboard Sputnik 2 quickly deteriorated. The cabin temperature rose to unbearable levels, and after a few hours, Laika succumbed to heat and stress. The official Soviet line at the time was that she had been euthanized painlessly before her oxygen ran out, but later revelations confirmed the harsh reality of her final hours. Laika's sacrifice wasn't in vain. Her mission provided critical data on how living organisms react to spaceflight. Her heart rate and breathing patterns were monitored, paving the way for future human missions. In a way, Laika was humanity's silent partner in exploring the cosmos. She didn't know it, but she had earned her wings and then some. Laika's story continues to inspire and provoke debate. Was her mission a triumph of science or a tragic example of how far we're willing to go in the name of progress? Regardless of where you stand, there's no denying her place in history. Laika showed us what was possible and the costs of those possibilities. And while we can't give her a medal now, her legacy endures. Today, there are monuments and statues around the world honoring her bravery. Somewhere in the vast expanse of space, Sputnik 2's orbit has long decayed, but Laika's story remains in our hearts, and maybe in the stars too. That's the story of Laika, but it's just the beginning of the Canine Cosmonaut tale. In the next half of this episode, we'll meet some other incredible dogs who followed in her paw prints, including Belka and Strelka, who actually made it back home. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because you won't want to miss what's coming next on. In the first half of this episode, we shared the bittersweet story of Laika, the first dog to orbit Earth. Now it's time for a happier tale, literally. Let's meet Belka and Strelka, the dynamic duo who didn't just go to space. They came back as interstellar celebrities. On August 19th, 1960, Belka and Strelka became the first animals to orbit the Earth and return safely. These two stray dogs from Moscow's streets went from scavenging scraps to starring in the greatest adventure of their lives. Think of it as the ultimate glow-up, and you thought adopting a rescue dog was impressive. Their journey aboard Sputnik 5 was carefully planned. Unlike Laika's ill-fated mission, Belka and Strelka were part of a mission designed to bring them home. The spacecraft wasn't just for the dogs either. It also carried a small zoo of other animals, including mice, rats, and even plants. Basically, it was Noah's Ark meets. The launch went smoothly, and Belka and Strelka's flight lasted a full day. Imagine being weightless for 24 hours with no idea what's going on. At least humans get space snacks. These poor pups were probably thinking, why does this airplane smell so weird? During the mission, the dogs were monitored closely. Cameras captured their every move, and sensors recorded their vital signs. The world held its breath as Sputnik 5 re-entered Earth's atmosphere, and then success! The capsule landed safely and the dogs were alive and well. Their return was a triumph, not just for the Soviet space program, but for animal astronauts everywhere. Finally, a happy ending. Belka and Strelka became instant stars. They were paraded around Moscow like furry rock stars. If Instagram had existed back then, they would have broken the internet, and Strelka's fame didn't stop there. She later gave birth to a litter of puppies, one of which was gifted to US President John F. Kennedy. Imagine being a puppy and having diplomat on your resume. This gesture of gifting a puppy, named Pushinka, was a symbolic act during a tense time in history. Pushinka's offspring with Kennedy's dog became known as the Pupniks, proving that even in the midst of the Cold War, dogs could bridge the gap between superpowers. Who knew canine diplomacy could be so effective? Belka and Strelka's story is a reminder that not all space tales have to end in tragedy. They were trailblazers who proved that living creatures could survive and thrive in space. And let's be honest, they're probably the only astronauts who could pull off zero-gravity zoomies. So what do you think about these amazing space pups? Let us know in the comments below. And if you're enjoying this series, don't forget to hit that like button, share this video with your friends, and subscribe too. There's plenty more cosmic history to explore, and we're just getting started. Next time, we'll dive into the extraordinary journeys of Ham and Enos, two chimpanzees who made history by proving that even primates could handle the rigors of spaceflight. Ham's successful mission showed the feasibility of tasks in zero gravity, and Enos took it a step further by orbiting the Earth. Don't miss the next episode as we explore the adventures of these incredible primate pioneers.